You got to make a change and fix the problems that you're finding. But when somebody spikes a football, that's not good.
We're not always the cheapest, but we don't have any complaints with the Better Business Bureau, and we're 5-star rated on Google. And
so the more hands-on experience you have, the more you learn. However, there's always new technologies.
All right, Corey Getz here today, meeting with a special guest of ours. It's actually a repeat customer for us here at UHQ Construction, amazing person to work with. He is the Director of Business Development at Building Envelope Consultants LTD, none other than Andy Baranto. Andy, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Corey. Pleasure to be with you, and I've got an ongoing project right now. Corey did a project for me a few years ago. He re-sided my chimney.
Yeah.
And did a great job. And so we had him back to look at my back bump out, which I had an issue with,
yeah,
with woodpeckers, and it was just a conventional LP siding, and they put more holes in it than you can imagine. So we're fixing it up, and I checked around with a lot of companies that do business in the space that Corey's in, and I selected UHQ because of their expertise, timeliness, and efficiency, and their crews are very polite and easy to work with.
Thank you.
Now, as far as I am concerned, I've been in the commercial construction business for 46 years, and specifically in commercial building envelope. So building envelope, what does that mean? Foundations, windows, walls, roofs. So we do consulting work at Building Envelope Consultants, and we have projects just about everywhere throughout the United States.
You said you got some big ones right now. Like you just finished up IU Memorial Stadium. You work with Honda, with Hyatt, lots of big names, right?
Lots of big names and big companies that we do business with because of our expertise. We've been in business since 1995, and we also have a division that does insurance work, where we do evaluations, and we do testing as well. So we do blower door testing, air barrier testing, hygrothermic analysis, and moisture leak detection for walls and windows and also roofs. So we have 3 technologies that we can do that with, especially in roofing. So really a full service consulting firm. So most of we're architects and engineers, and do, as I mentioned, work all over the United States. So we appreciate you having us on this video.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to have UHQ do my work here today. And if anybody has any questions, or my recommendation would be to use these guys. They're great at what they do.
Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Now, how did you get into this business envelope, business? That is a building envelope. How did you get into that? That's not the most common thing for people to do for a living, right?
Well, I tell our young engineers, if you're looking for a niche, where when the economy slows down, a lot of engineering and architectural firms will let their young people go. In our business, you have to focus on 2 things. People need to eat, they need a roof over their head, so it's a sustainable business. So no matter how bad the economy gets, there's still a need for folks like us to help businesses and people with their building envelope. So I started 46 years ago.
46 years, holy cow.
46 years ago in Milwaukee, Wisconsin with Johns Manville. I was with Johns Manville for 42 years.
Which some people may not know, that is a large roofing manufacturer, correct?
They're a large roofing and insulation manufacturer, one of Warren Buffett's companies. And I did a lot of business as well, since we're a Berkshire Hathaway company with similar sister companies. names that you would recognize, of course. But I left there 5 years ago and joined Building Envelope Consultants.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it's been a great experience. It's something I've wanted to do. I probably should have done this a long time ago, but we help a lot of people. We do a lot of good work. We also here locally do a lot of work with IU, Indiana University, and
Go Hoosiers.
yes, go
Yeah,
Hoosiers.
go
We're
Hoosiers.
doing the Tom Raper Hall right now, and we have several other projects we're getting ready to do because of our expertise and how we do things.
Yeah. And what drives you to do this type of work? What is it that you enjoy most about it?
Well, I enjoy staying active and busy, and I also, as well as doing the business development for the company, finding the projects and soliciting the clients, also go out on projects and look at them. So that keeps me engaged with what the current technologies are. I have a technical background anyway, but it kind of keeps me in the game to go and look at projects and follow up on them as well.
Nice. Do you have a specific success story or project that you have worked on that you're really proud of, or is maybe one of the, that one of your favorite ones you've worked on?
You know, that's a great question, and yes, what comes to mind is we did a project in Newport News, which I did the project management on, and it was for a large real estate developer, Skinnell, and they had a project that had issues with the roof, the walls, and the HVAC system. So we solved those problems, and they're great people to work with. And we also did thermal imaging on the walls because they had wall closures that weren't closed. In other words, joints that were open. When we had that cold snap a few years ago, we found that they needed to remediate those joints. So we handled the situation with the large HVAC systems. We found the issues in the walls and issues on the roof. So that was an interesting project. As we were going along, we found these other issues that they were having that nobody knew that were there.
Wow.
So that was rewarding to help them solve their problem, and they're great people to work with too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. What are maybe some misconceptions that people would have when it comes to what you do for a living when you look at these building envelopes? What are some misconceptions that people have sometimes about it?
Well, there are architects and engineers that do a great job designing buildings,
Yeah.
right? And other structures, but because we focus on the building envelope, that's where our expertise is. So we can focus in on what the building existing conditions are and provide solutions to solve the problems that they have, because it takes years and years to develop that type of expertise to know what to look for, just like in your business.
Yeah.
You came out, you looked at my back wall, you said, you need to re-side that because there could be moisture that gets behind the siding.
Yeah.
So because of your expertise, you're able to make that analysis.
Yeah.
And it's the same for us. Just because somebody is designing buildings, that doesn't necessarily give them the expertise to do what we do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think we see it sometimes in residential homes as well, where it's like, they design them, and like you said, these architects and engineers, they design a beautiful home, very cutting edge or modern, forward thinking, but sometimes as years play on, then we find things come up, and then we have to kind of readdress it and say, okay, well, based off what we have here, how do we make this work for the customer? And it kind of sounds like that's what you're doing as well.
Right, like with any structure, you have spots that could accumulate water. I'm sure you've seen that in your business.
Yeah.
So how do you address that?
Yeah, exactly. And moisture mitigation is like maybe the most important thing when it comes to what we do for a living. You know, I joke around with people a lot. I say, you know, water only flows one way, and that's down, based off gravity, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of what we do, you know, in that moisture mitigation is to layer in things properly, but it's not just the layering. Sometimes it's also giving it the ability to breathe, right? To let that moisture out in different ways. And we see that pretty common. So you deal with a lot of contractors then, right?
Yeah, I've had the fortune of dealing with the best commercial roofing contractors throughout the United States. I was one of the national account managers for Johns Manville in the commercial roofing business. And so I dealt with contractors from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. And one of my clients while I was at Johns Manville was the U.S. Postal Service.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I did a lot of work with the Postal Service as well. And of course, you got to vet, you know, commercial, excuse me, contractors. And, you know, my, my knowledge of the existing contractor base helps me with Building Envelope as well, consultants, because I'm able to find the best contractors for our clients.
Yeah, because you're initially finding those problems and helping connect them with the right people to get them the solutions.
Right, we do project management. If somebody asks us to do an evaluation on a building, we'll do that and tell them what the situation is and then write specifications.
Yeah.
And then bring in contractors to do project management.
Yeah.
In other words, we'll manage a project from specifications throughout the end of the project to make sure it's successful. The owner gets a proper warranty.
Yeah, that's important.
Right? And then we do in-progress inspections. We have a number of registered roof observers, which are qualified by IBEC, the International Building Institute. I'm one of the directors at the Chicago chapter of IBEC, and I've been involved with IBEC for the last 20 years at least.
Wow.
And so there are only 800 in the United States, and we have a fair amount of registered roof observers. We also do a lot of work for the Corps of Engineers as well,
Wow.
who require registered roof observers.
Yeah.
So.
And I think there's good reason for that, don't you, to have somebody observe it while it's going on just so we can make sure it goes well?
Well, you have to have a certain level of expertise to get that designation, and I have that designation as well.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of training and on-hand or hands-on experience with doing that type of work, observing roofs, knowing how they work.
Yeah.
So that gives us a big edge when we go out and do work for a big client. We're able to supply people that really know what they're doing.
That's awesome. That's great. So since we're talking about contractors, I have a couple of questions about contractors I'd love to hear your feedback on. Is number one, what do we need to see more of from contractors?
Well, the key that I see with most contractors that I've dealt with over the years, you've got both ends of the spectrum. You've got folks that are really good at what they do and folks that aren't very good at what they do. So I would say that communication with your client is the key.
Yeah.
Having the proper work crew that does a good project, and their expertise with what they're doing, how they're doing it, is important, and then resolving issues if they come up, and not creating a problem. I've had situations where projects are easy to fix, and a contractor might make it more difficult because they don't know how to communicate, and they don't understand the client-contractor relationship.
Yeah.
Because successful contractors will always get referrals.
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of met you.
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
a referral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what do you think the other side of this question is, so that's what we need to see more of, and communication, I can't agree with you anymore. What do we need to see less of from contractors?
Well, what I see is that I'll never forget, I was in Florida And I was down by a marina, and there was this big Bertram boat. And on the back of the boat, it said change order, and the dinghy said contract.
I think I saw that boat down in Boca Raton this winter, actually, when I was at a Hardy conference.
So what I see sometimes when a contractor gets a project, they try to spike the football and try to get these huge extras when they're really not necessary or required. Obviously, with a project, you never know what you're going to get into, what you're going to find. So a change order happens.
Yeah.
You know, you got to make a change and fix the problems that you're finding. But when somebody spikes the football, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know, that's not good, and that leaves a bad taste in somebody's mouth, and consequently, they're going to talk to their colleagues and say what happened, and it's the owner, the client, may not use that contractor in the future.
Right.
Because of that.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is cutting their nose off to spite their face.
Oh man, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing I'd say is that when we look at contractors, when we're doing bid process, what we don't do is necessarily look at the lowest price, okay? Because we want to see that, we want to recommend the most qualified contractor that does a good job, has a great reputation, has proper warranties in place, and that's a contractor that we'll recommend rather than somebody that has a low price and doesn't have all those elements in their bid.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this or not, Andy, but I'm sure you're familiar with the Better Business Bureau.
Sure.
And according to the Better Business Bureau, contractors get more complaints than anybody else. Could you believe that?
I believe that in the commercial roofing space, 80% of the lawsuits are on roofing. I know that for a fact, having been in that business for all these years. So anyway, getting back to vetting contractors, I think it's important to vet the contractor, make sure that you're doing business with the proper person.
Yeah.
And you'll get that through referrals, testimonials, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and so here's the other thing that Better Business Bureau found is they surveyed, there's over 12 million complaints against contractors. And what they found is 80% of the time when somebody chooses the lowest bid, they have issues just getting their project completed. Not that it's done right, not that it looks good, not that there's anybody to stand there behind the warranty, but that 80% of the time when people choose the lowest bid, they have issues just getting the project completed. Could you imagine that?
Well, we had a project once where somebody came from out of state here in Indiana on a big project, and it turned out that they were a residential contractor and they were trying to bid a big commercial job. So we vetted them and found out that they didn't have the expertise to do the project, and they weren't recommended, obviously, to our client.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, but I would tell any client owner, you know, make sure you check your contractors out and check with the Better Business Bureau. Dun & Bradstreet's another good example of a check you can do on your contractor, and then check their financial record. Check to see if they're financially viable.
Yeah.
Because lots of times people are on the edge of being in business, and if they're on the edge, you don't want them to go bust on your project.
That's right, especially on the commercial projects you work on, yeah.
Yeah, so we, like I say, I mean, we have a portfolio of contractors we deal with that we vetted, and we have so many projects going. We do business with a lot of folks on a continuum that we know that can do a good job and bid our projects. So we have a number of contractors. We just had a project in Niles, Illinois, and we had 10 bids, all the contractors we knew, and we got great results. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. You know, and that's what you know, we really a lot of times when we're giving people a bid, you know, we know that they're going to get bids from other contractors, and we really encourage it to them. And you know, when people hire us, a lot of times it's kind of what you talk about. It's because we really focus on communication. We give people a detailed estimate. We have different meetings with our homeowners, especially after they sign the contract, as you've experienced, where we come out and meet with you and make sure that what the sales team promised you is what the production team is going to deliver, and that there's a good line of communication in that. And what that does for us is, over the years, I've learned that helps us avoid any of the details falling through the cracks. And so we really try to do our best at UHQ to serve our customers with that communication, avoid those pitfalls. And we're not always the cheapest, but you know, we don't have any complaints with the Better Business Bureau, and we're 5-star rated on Google, and you know, and a lot of that, and we get referred a lot, like you said, because we stand behind our work and we really try to do a good job for people. So,
well, you came out and we looked at the project, and you came up with a plan. You came back out to the house and went over that plan with me,
yeah,
in detail, and said when you'd be here. It wasn't any fluff. You said you'd be here toward the end of May, and here you are.
Yeah.
Right on time. And that's perfect because we're leaving for vacation next week. So
Yeah.
I'll have this completely done and squared away.
Yeah.
You know, by the time we leave, so I don't have to worry about it. And so, as I said earlier, communication is the key when it comes to client-contractor communication, interaction. And that's what we try to do. That's what I try to do for my clients, communicate with them as best I can, let them know up front what the issues could be and how we're going to resolve it, and communicate with them throughout the process. And of course, we're getting involved with lots of big projects, so you know, it could be a weekly or bi-weekly interaction with a client to let them know how we're doing and what we're doing. And because so many of our clients are out of Indiana, we do a lot of Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
You know, because I can't be everywhere. We have 9 offices throughout the United States, as far away as California, Tiburon, California, Denver, and throughout the Midwest. So, but I do all the business development, and we're able to communicate that way. And we really use Zoom as a big tool to communicate with. And of course, it never hurts to use a telephone as well if you can't get a hold of somebody via Zoom or email.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What advice would you have for people trying to get more into the business envelope industry? You know, what advice would you have for them if they like to get into more of what you're doing? Because it's really cool what you're doing, and I think you guys use a lot of technology, and you know, technology is obviously leading the future with everything. And you know, what would somebody want to do to get involved?
Get educated.
Yeah.
Okay, the more education you have, I can't tell you how many conferences and seminars I've attended, thousands. You know, as far as looking at projects, somebody asked me once, how many projects have you been involved with? And I'd have to say probably throughout my career, probably about 3,500, 4,000 that I've directly been involved with. Yeah. So the more hands-on experience you have, the more you learn. However, there's always new technologies, and you have to educate yourself and understand those technologies. The high growth thermic modeling that we do, we can figure out where moisture is coming from inside of a building, and that's a relatively new technology that we have. In fact, the city of Denver requires a high growth thermic analysis on any contract a contractor has in the city of Denver.
Wow.
So we do a lot of that work, and other cities are taking on that, requiring that analysis as well. So City of Chicago is going to institute it here shortly as well.
Wow, that's a big deal, huh?
It is a big deal because, you know, and especially with residences, you know, there's a lot of moisture that gets built up inside a home, and it'll affect the siding and the roofing. And you got to figure out where the moisture is coming from. And so we could do that with that type of modeling.
That's awesome. That's great. What would be your message to your audience?
just make sure you hire the proper contractor and vet them. A lot of people just throw a dart against the board, and that's not the right approach. You got to really check out who you're doing business with, and to avoid problems, because you don't want to be that company or that guy that says, you know what, we made the wrong choice. We have project delays, we have problems with crews, we have problems with crews making a lot of racket on a project with music and inappropriate attire, smoking cigarettes. A lot of the companies we do business with are smoke-free, so these guys break the rules. And so to find somebody that's got a great reputation and a good financial backing, that's what you want to do.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really good. Is there anything else you'd like to promote today?
No, I think we've covered it all. I think you've been extremely thorough. We appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our business and specifically what I do, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future. And we're going to reside the whole house, and I'm going to have UHQ do it in the next year or two.
Well, I really appreciate that. Before we go, you were telling me a story before we came on here. You know, we had talked about, we did the siding on your chimney, and we used James Hardy siding, which is a fiber cement siding. One of the great benefits about it is woodpeckers won't peck it. And so you were telling me the story about now the woodpeckers don't peck the siding, they peck at your chimney chase cover.
Yeah, they've been pecking at the metal cover because the siding won't work for them. They can't get into it.
Yeah.
So they tried the cover, and that didn't work either. So, you know, game over for the woodpeckers.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I tell people sometimes the woodpeckers are our best salesmen.
Well, they certainly help you on my project.
Yeah. So, well, you know, Andy, I really appreciate you taking the time out to meet with me and talk today. And we love being here as your contractor for your siding projects, and anything you ever need in the future, please let us know. We'd be happy to help you out.
Thanks, Corey. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.